Welcome to episode 389 of the 2-Minute Warning. Today I'm looking at the Miami Dolphins and determining whether or not they can get into the playoffs in the 2021 NFL season. But before getting into that video, I do have a question for the video for you NFL fans and Miami Dolphins fans. What was the famous wide receiver duo nickname that Dan Marino threw to throughout most of his career with the Miami Dolphins? Is a very iconic nickname for that duo of receivers. Comment below if you know the answer. If you do not worry, I will reveal the answer at the end. But getting into this video, looking at the Miami Dolphins this past year, 2020, they finished 10-6, and 9 out of 10 times in the NFL, if you finish 10-6, you're more than likely going to be a wild card team in the playoffs, or at least just get a playoff seed in general. But even with the new seeding where they added an extra seed of a 7th seed to the NFL playoffs, I thought they would definitely make it. However, it was a tough competition in the AFC this past year, and they got scratched out of the playoffs. But moving forward in the 2021 NFL season, I do think this is a playoff team. Looking at their defense, top 5 defense led by Xavier Howard. I believe he led in interceptions this year at 9, I believe. One of the best corners in the NFL for sure. As I just said, led in interceptions. And looking at the offense, it does need some work, but I do think it could get there. Assuming the Miami Dolphins stick with Tua Tagovailoa and decide to just surround him with weapons, give him some protection, and give him some weapons to throw to, I do think Tua Tagovailoa can take them to the playoffs and can be a promising quarterback. Don't know if he is the guy that can win a Super Bowl, win all the big games, because we haven't seen him in big games given the opportunity yet. The Buffalo Bills was kind of a big game in Week 17 this past season, where if they won, they got in. They got blown out 56-26, so that is kind of an example of Tua in his biggest game so far, but I'm not going to judge him just off of one game yet, being a rookie as well. I'm going to give him a little bit more time to judge him completely and determine if he's a bust or going to be the next prodigy for the Dolphins. But I think they should look at keeping him rather than drafting quarterback. Now, if somehow, some way they can get Deshaun Watson, of course I would entertain that idea, but there has to be a certain price. I don't want to give up my entire future. But assuming they have the roster right now and stick with it for the most part, they do have the number 3 overall pick in the NFL draft this year from the Houston Texans, and they have their own first-round draft pick at, I believe, number 18 overall. So 2 first-round picks is very promising for the Dolphins to work with and build on this team. Looking at their strong suits right now, of course, like I said, having a top 5 defense, receiving core, having Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki, pretty good receiver and a pretty good tight end, and then Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback with Myles Gaskins in the backfield at running back, and of course, great head coach in Brian Flores, a piece of the Bill Belichick branch that breaks off on quarterbacks. He's actually one of the successful ones. Not a lot of his quarterbacks that leave him go on to be very successful. Matt Patricia with the Detroit Lions, for example. However, Brian Flores seems to be very different. I do think he will be great, and he is being great right now. Looking at what they need the most in this NFL draft, at number 3 overall, to me, you either go protection or receiver for Tua Tagovailoa. There were rumors that Tua Tagovailoa and Devontae Smith, former Alabama quarterback and receiver teammates in college, talking about teaming up in the NFL. However, it came out that Devontae Smith said Mac Jones is a better quarterback than Tua Tagovailoa, so I'm not sure they're going to be on the same page and want to team up anymore with Devontae Smith choosing Jones over Tagovailoa, but we will see. To me, if you don't draft Devontae Smith at number 3 overall, then you hope that Penei Sewell, the top offensive tackle from Oregon, is available coming out. You definitely need protection for Tua Tagovailoa. Yes, his receiving core needs some work, but he can get it done with Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki. I would rather keep him protected and not see what happened to Joe Burrow happen to Tua Tagovailoa. He's a guy that can't get rattled. He can move in the pocket, but you still don't want to force him out of the pocket. I want to see him have protection and have time in the pocket. Given the opportunity, I think he can make it work with Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki. Number 3 overall, you could, of course, if, say, Devontae Smith, you don't want to really pair him up, and Penei Sewell's already taken. You have, of course, entertain the idea of one of the other best receivers, Jamar Chase from LSU, or maybe an extra tight end, Kyle Pitts, if you want to pair him up with Mike Gesicki, or maybe even Jalen Waddle from Alabama as well, or the best next offensive tackle in Rashawn Slater. A lot of options for them on number 3 overall. Maybe they could trade down and get an extra first-round pick next year for trading down this year. There's a lot of options for Miami with their first-round draft pick, but to me, top priority is 100% a receiver or offensive tackle. Assuming they go protection, I think at number 18 overall, then they should look at a receiver such as Jalen Waddle. If somehow he he fell down because people don't want to draft him due to injury, or maybe look at Kadarius Toney from the Florida Gators. A lot of receiving options for the Miami Dolphins to go after in this NFL draft. Protection is a top priority for me. In the later rounds of the draft, such as round 2 or 3, I think they should try and work on the backfield. Miles Gaskins has some promising talent, but with this running back draft class being stacked with Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, and Trey Sermon, Ohio State, Clemson, and Alabama, one of those 3 running backs I think the Dolphins should jump on and look at in the second round of this NFL draft to be able to upgrade their backfield, upgrade their weapons, and upgrade their offensive line. This is a whole new Miami offense that already went 10-6 with what they have now, and given these new weapons, they could go 11-5, 12-4, and definitely make the playoffs. In my opinion, looking at the playoff seedings this year, you know the Kansas City Chiefs are going to make it. The Buffalo Bills are probably going to make it. That'll be a tough one for Miami to win the division. I assume the Bills will come out on top with the AFC East, but if they execute this NFL draft, like I said, somehow if they pull off Penei Sewell, they pick up Kadarius Toney in the late first round, and then in the second round they get a new Najee Harris. This is an offense that can go toe-to-toe with Josh Allen, so that will be a mix-up in the AFC East. But leaving that aside right now, the other 3 division winners I think will be the Kansas City Chiefs. I think Carson Wentz and the Indianapolis Colts will click and they'll win the AFC South. And then in the AFC North, I think it'll be either the Baltimore Ravens or the Cleveland Browns, whichever the 2. One will win the division. I think the other will definitely be a playoff team. So looking at the 7 seeds, like I said, I got the Chiefs, I got the Colts, and then I got the Ravens and Browns both being in the playoffs. And then 5th and 6th, not exactly 5th and 6th seed, but the 5th and 6th teams, I do think the Bills and Dolphins will both make it. And then the 7th team I got being the Los Angeles Chargers. I think Justin Herbert and the Chargers will step up and be a playoff team this year with their new head coach, Brandon Staley. So Dolphins definitely fit in there. There's some other playoff teams that are possibly out and looking in, such as the Las Vegas Raiders, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Big Ben, if he comes back, they still have raw talent on that team, and of course the Tennessee Titans and Derrick Henry. So the AFC is by no means an easy conference to make the playoffs in, no more. I think the Dolphins, however, will be on par to make it. I do think they should have made it this last year and past year and had the talent to do so, and this year they will only get better in free agency and the NFL draft, and any problem that they do have, they can definitely execute. If you look at the Cleveland Browns right now, I kind of like the system they're going in, where Baker Mayfield, we know, is not the most talented quarterback. However, he has a fortress built around him in Odell Beckham Jr., Austin Hooper, David Njoku, Jarvis Landry. He has the best offensive line in the league, and he has one of the best running backs in the league, or one of the best backfields in the league, where he has 2-star running backs, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. If you do the similar thing in Miami, I think we could see Tua Tagovailoa emerge if you put a fortress around him. Like I said, with Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki, you get him a receiver like Devontae Smith, you get him an offensive tackle like Penei Sewell, and you get him a running back like Najee Harris. He will have a fortress and offense around him no matter what. They will be great, as well as having an amazing defense as well. I definitely see this Miami Dolphins team making the playoffs in 2021, and I just don't see an outcome where they don't, unless Tua Tagovailoa is a complete bust. I don't think he's a stud. I don't think he's a great quarterback. I don't think he's one of the best, but I do think he's good enough and has the talent to take him to the playoffs. And unless he turns out terrible, like I said, they will definitely make it. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Miami will make it? Do you think they won't? Let me know below. But for the question of the video, the famous receiver duo for Dan Marino and the Miami Dolphins in the 1980s and 1990s was, of course, the Marks brothers, Mark Duper and Mark Clayton. They're the 2 all-time leading receivers in yards for the Miami Dolphins in franchise history. Thanks for watching, guys. 2-minute warning.